Have you ever been in a situation where in order to save $5, you've lost yourself 100? That's what we're going to unpack today at Black Ram TV's podcast, Gaining Ground. My name is Daniela Sugia, and I am Chief Strategist and Creative Director at Black Ram Media Group, Inc. And we're going to put this through the filter of business at some point, but really I'm going to use municipal elections as a perfect example of how this mistake is made as it pertains to buying media services. So right now, Ontario is going through a municipal election. Not the busiest time for me, and I'll tell you why. Normally, I'm hired by campaign managers during provincial and federal elections. And for them, I'll usually quote them a package deal. They give me one lump sum and they basically own me for 3 months. And that's usually the way it goes. Now, when it comes to municipal politics, there's really not a lot of budget to play with. And as a matter of fact, many municipal politicians don't have campaign managers. They don't outsource media services. And not because they don't find value in them. They sure do depend on them during provincial and federal elections. But because there really isn't a budget. And companies like Black Ram Media Group that are very seasoned in political work, they don't come cheap. And if the money's not there, it's not there. And I'm not reducing my rate. So there's an impasse. So, and many times, for municipal, you can DIY it if you have any kind of design skill or if you're well organized or you have a supportive family that's talented, you can make it work. But sometimes there's the tendency of outsourcing the media work to another company that maybe is a lot more affordable. Now, the problem is, there's a few problems there. Most companies that have gotten to the point that are seasoned politically, you're not going to find one that's cheap, right? That's all, that kind of expertise, you've got to pay for it. Which means you're now stuck dealing with media companies that don't know the nuances of politics. They might sell toothpaste better than any other media company out there. They might do amazing social media for a candle company or for even a big corporation. But politics is very nuanced. And you as a politician, you need to make sure that you are not turned into a caricature. Because the bandwagon on social media now is you've got to be silly and you've got to be a caricature. But you're looking for votes, and that's serious business. So people need to see the serious part of you and the knowledgeable part of you, which many social media gurus will think is boring because they want you to do the latest TikTok dance. You know what I mean? And they're going to tell you that that's going to appeal to younger voters. But is it gonna get that younger voter to go to the polls for you, though? That's the question. So when you're getting advice from PR or media people that are not politically nuanced or experienced, you may be getting not only bad advice, but detrimental advice. And there are, for example, if you're a city councilor and you're running for office, there's places you can't be photographed. Right? There's certain logos and things that can't be made visible. These are the little rules that these companies won't know because they're not seasoned in political work. And if you're outsourcing media services because you want to save time, well, with these companies, you're going to end up doing so many edits or having to remember to train them on all the things they can and can't do that they don't know that you could have just done it yourself in the first place. So you need to be, look, when you go to the store to buy wine, you're avoiding the cheapest bottle on the shelf, right? Even if you can't afford top dollar, you're not buying the cheapest wine on the shelf because if that's what you buy, you can pretty much guess what it's going to taste like. You wouldn't find the cheapest possible pair of shoes on the planet to buy because they're going to fall apart. You don't buy expired meat. You know what I mean? Not if you can avoid it because it's going to make you sick. So when you're buying substandard media and communications materials And this is the thing that's supposed to convince someone to vote for you. What do you think is going to happen? Now, I'm bound by silence agreements and things of that. I wish I could show you some of the stuff that I've seen come, the disasters I've seen, because somebody trusted or took bad advice or went with a company that didn't know better. And then here's the thing. So now you've got to pay these people for work you don't like. And then half of the time they end up coming to me anyway so that I can fix it. Where if they had hired me to just do it in the first place, it would be a lot cheaper. So for example, I mentioned that when I'm hired by provincial or federal campaigns, I offer a lump sum package deal. Well, to give, because I know municipal politicians don't have the money, I will do hourly rates for them and I'll consult hourly. But sometimes it would have been cheaper for them if they did get some kind of package. It may not be the Rolls-Royce package they're used to if they've run at other levels of government, but they could at least get something from me to make sure they don't at least fall in these pitfalls, right? Because then I have to clean it up anyway. It costs way more money to clean up a mess than to prevent one. So you have to be careful where you're willing to save money, that it doesn't end up costing you money in the long run. And the same advice goes for choosing a campaign manager. And everybody says, I'm going to pick my cousin, I'm going to pick my brother, because they're going to make sure I'm protected from the snakes. There's no snakes. There's no snakes. Like that is that's from the movies, okay? Campaign management is a complicated thing. And if they are not politically savvy, and I don't mean that they're well versed on what the news tells them to think, I'm saying if they don't know the nuts and bolts of running the machine of a campaign, getting volunteers, dealing with fundraising, dealing with events, organizing where you should be walking. Do they even know about door knocking? Do they know not to make newbie mistakes like spending too much money on signs? Go a few episodes back. We have a great podcast on campaign sign strategy. The newbie mistakes that a lot of campaign managers make when they don't have guidance or they don't have a support system. A campaign manager is usually not just a person. They normally have a mentor. They normally have teams that they've worked with before, so they can crank out, like today, a campaign manager reached out. I need a campaign video, 2 emails. We got it sorted. We'll book it next week. And 2 days after that, he'll have a campaign video. That's why they pay us what they pay us, because we can work that fast with almost zero supervision. Once they hand the keys to us, we take care of the Ferrari. Once they hand it to us, they never have to think about it again, rarely have to do any edits at this point. Now, when you've worked with the same people, I know what they want. So they just call me and I hand it over and they move on. And it is worth a premium to not have to think twice about things. And when you are hiring substandard service people, and not because they're necessarily bad designers or they don't know how to edit a video, they don't know the nuances of political communication. They don't know how to read a poll and interpret that. They don't know how to create a comm strategy based on what the polling. Do they even know where to get a poll? Right? That's stuff we do. And so, for example, just to give you a small taste of what Black Ram does politically, we do campaign videos. We do candidate profiles where we analyze, the strengths and weaknesses of a candidate. We do campaign management and evaluations. Then we do training, tons of training, styling and everything else to prepare a candidate for public life, social media training. We manage social media accounts. We produce social media content. Did I say campaign videos? Like we do tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. And that's because we've had so much experience making this stuff, we can crank it out like a factory. That comes at a cost. So you have to either save the money, fundraise for the money, find the money, or really season a team. So, when you said, well, my niece is really creative. She does really great stuff. Fantastic. Teach her the nuances of political communication. Get her some education when it comes to that. Find her a mentor. to teach her the nuts and bolts of things, and then let her loose on your social media. But you have to be careful that the people you surround yourself with and that you take advice with, know what they're doing. The last thing you want is someone who might be, let's say, an expert at selling cosmetics on Instagram. So they consider themselves an expert of Instagram, and they might be. But the strategies, and they might even grow your audience. But are they growing voter audience? Right? Voter ID is the most important part of your campaign, is voter ID. You have to find out your vote to win number, and you need to identify those votes and get them to the polls. If your campaign manager doesn't know to do that and your social media reach isn't doing that, then it's failing. You're underutilizing the value of social media. Social media can be fantastic for IDing votes, but nobody ever wants to use it because you have old hat people that have been doing it the same way every time, and they think that door knockers are going to be the thing. If the day of the election, spending money to deliver door knockers at the day of the election, people know if they're going to vote or not. And if they're going to vote for you, they don't need a postcard on their door to get them to do it. So you have to surround yourself with professionals that know how the game is changing, especially in a climate of low voter turnout, to maximize every single thing you do to ID votes and get people to the polls. And your communication strategy has to work to that end. So it's not about, hey, everybody in Alberta loves you if, people in Alberta can't vote for you if you're in Ontario. So what you need is not necessarily a ton more followers, but you need quite a few followers that are actually voters. And more importantly, community organizers and influencers themselves that will then convince people to vote for you. And your social media strategy has to work to that end. And someone that only knows how to sell lipstick probably doesn't know that. Or someone that, wants to be or is a social media influencer because they're so funny and they're on all the trends. They're not necessarily, they'll get you a big audience, but are they going to get you a voting audience? That's what qualified professionals get you. That will never, ever come cheap. So the goal for you is to fundraise in between elections or learn how to create this media yourself. There's tons of free courses on YouTube. Tons. Or if you have a few dollars, you can pay for a course at Black Ram Media. But look, they're not cheap either, and I won't even pretend that they are. So if you're not at hiring Black Media, Ram Media level or equivalent, I'm not at all giving you any negativity or I'm not scoffing at you. What I'm telling you is learn this stuff yourself or find some talented people that can learn it to you and do it long before you're running for office. As by the time the but by the time the campaign starts, you need to be knocking on doors. You need to be making calls. You need to be doing voter ID. You need to be seen at all the things, and you have to shake everybody's hands and do all the stuff. That's why I work in communications and don't just run myself, because it is exhausting. You can't be playing at home on a video editor or on a literature editor because, you have to do the literature and you can't do the thing. You won't be able to do it. You will burn out and fail. And that's why at the end, near the end of an election municipally, I start to get really, really busy. And it's usually cleaning up messes. Like, again, way more expensive than prevention. So learn your stuff, get yourself a fantastic team, a qualified team, or find the resources to afford them. If you can't, find the team that's willing to volunteer for you, that's good at what they do. Okay, everybody, thank you for tuning in today. You are listening to Black Ram TV's podcast, Gaining Ground, and my name is Daniela Sajia. Go get 'em.